It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from St Peter's Brewery and it's a bottle of their Plum Porter coming in at 5% ABV. Described as rich, ripe, jammy and plummy. There's the bottle cap. Let's get the beer out into a glass and see what we get. Nice bit of smoke on the bottle opening. Beer in the glass then. I've not reviewed a St Peter's beer in years. Years and years. Put that down for a moment. I want to show you the bottle. This is the most kind of, for me, unique bottle in the beer industry. It's like an old medicine bottle. I really like it. It reminds me of kind of 2012, 2013 when I was reviewing a lot of kind of St Peter's beers. It kind of takes me back 5 years almost. The beer in the glass is a one finger, slightly off-white head. It's jet black, but you can tell it's got a small colour of the fruit in it. You can almost see that plum in the glass. A little bit of carbonation rolling up the glass there, but it's generally a jet black porter. There's a little bit of light there bleeding through the bottom of the glass. Let's get the aroma. Very jammy, very plummy. Lots of blackcurrant. It's got an air of, and I mean this in the most satisfying way, when you've got a chest infection or a cough, you have some cough medicine in it. Somehow, it's not the greatest taste in the world, but it's satisfying because you know it's going to make you better. It's got a little bit of kind of cough medicine about it in the aroma. Let's dive in. Cheers. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. Good levels of carbonation. You can feel the carbonation pushing the beer around the inside of the mouth. Lots of fruit. I mean, tons of fruit. Lots of blackcurrant. Lots of plum. Lots of jammy flavours. And there's an interesting bitterness right on the back end. Very interesting. And that's going to come from the fruit. That's going to come from the plum or the blackcurrant. It's a very organic, bitter flavour on the back end. It's not bad. I'm going to tell you I paid £1 for this beer as part of the Morrison's Beer Festival. So £1 for a beer in this day and age, October 2017, is just quite remarkable, to be honest. There are a couple of things, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. There are a couple of things that are slightly annoying me about this beer. And that's only because I'm a beer review and I'm a critic. The first thing, and it's kind of blatantly obvious to anybody who's either in the beer industry or who has ever brewed a stout or a porter or who likes stout and porters, is that there's no real porter flavour here. There's no real roasted malt flavours coming through. And that's a little bit, it's a bit of a letdown. The other thing is the more I drink this in bigger mouthfuls, like this, the more I like the initial flavour, the more I like that jamminess, that plum, that black currant. But then I wish I could take away that back end. I wish I could take away that bitterness on the back end, that organic, astringent bitterness that really shouldn't be there. It's a nice beer, and bearing in mind, I mean, most bottles of water these days are more than £1. So they've not done a bad job here. You get some plum flavours, you get some jam, you get some blackberry, and they're not hiding from that fact. Look, it's on the front of the label. It says a dark, sweet, full-bodied plum porter. Background notes of damson and blackcurrant are followed by the fruitiness of the plum in the flavour and aroma. And that's it, really. And even themselves, they're not talking about it. It carries on by saying all of these complex flavours contribute to this easy drinking beer. So even themselves, they're not talking about any kind of roasted malt in the beer. So it's not a let-off because they've called it a porter. Maybe if they called it a dark fruit beer, maybe if they called it, you can't really, and here's the problem, you can't really call it St. Peter's Plum dark fruit beer. It just doesn't work. So you call it a plum porter because it sounds fantastic. Plum porter, it rolls off the tongue. And there's that whole thing of course the supermarket want to, it was £1.50, it was reduced to £1. They've asked St. Peter's to brew a beer at a price. They've produced a beer at a price, and of course if you put blackcurrant and you start putting plums and all sorts of different fruits in the beer, and then you add a lot of roasted malt, your costs are going through the roof. They really are. So there's faults here, not just squarely aimed at St. Peter's, but at Morrison's for maybe asking them to produce a beer up to £1.50 and expecting it to be like a fantastic plum porter. It's a nice beer. It's a nice beer. I'm not complaining for the fact that I'm paying £1 for this beer. As I mentioned earlier, you can pay £1 or more for a bottle of water. I just wish it had a little bit more kind of porter flavours coming through. But let's rate it. Rating, it's a 7. It's a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box, subscribe to our daily beer reviews, give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom! And cheers.